you've got to live life. You can't turn back. You can't stay stuck.
Welcome to Unstereotyped, the podcast that's redefining leadership and entrepreneurship one voice at a time. I'm your host, 𝐓𝐢𝐬𝐞 𝐒𝐭𝐚𝐦𝐩𝐬, author of Beyond Gender and Ethnic Stereotypes, a book about how women of color redefine public sector leadership. Joining me on the podcast today is Chalon Obi, a dear friend of mine, and I am privileged to say that I've had a seat walking alongside her and watching her throughout her journey. So I'm excited to bring her story to you and to hear from her how she has overcome things that she has come against in hopes that it inspires you. Chalon Cherie Obi's journey is one of resilience, reinvention, and relentless pursuit of purpose. Growing up in a tight-knit community in Michigan, she balanced what she likes to refer to as pretty girl tomboy with excelling in sports and work from a young age. Life threw her challenges, including raising a son with sickle cell anemia and navigating a difficult divorce. But Chalon never backed down. She reinvented herself multiple times, from working various jobs to becoming an executive director to finally discovering her passion for photography and teaching abroad in South Korea. Through every twist and turn, Chalon has leaned on her faith, embraced bold moves, and emerge stronger with a deep commitment to serving others. Join us as we explore the inspiring story of a woman who has truly lived many lives and continues to thrive, always with a heart full of purpose and spirit and ready for the next adventure. Welcome to the podcast, Chalon. Say hi to the people.
Greetings, lovely people. Greetings.
I am thrilled to have you, and I imagine as they heard me introduce a bit about you, they'll understand why. We have lots to learn from you as you share your journey with us. So let's
Yes.
just dive right into it. You've navigated significant life challenges, including raising a child with sickle cell anemia and managing various careers. What moments tested your resilience the most, and how did you push through?
Well, like you said, raising a child, I had my beautiful son, Poche. At the age of 23, I was with his father for 13 years. But when he turned 8, he and I set on a journey moving from Michigan to Georgia. So that left me raising Poche primarily on my own. He, of course, stayed connected to his family, my family back in Michigan, but it was he and I. And really, I just buckled down and said, I don't have a choice, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to love him and give him the best life that I could give him. The challenges would be that it was just me. It was me and him. The times that we spent in the hospital, I continued to work. I continued to go to school. He went to school. So it was not an easy thing, but I knew that with God's help and what I had learned growing up, like resilience, work ethic, not turning back, I just knew that we could have a better life, the best life that God had afforded for us, that He had made a way for me to figure out this path.
Mm.
So, leaving home, moving to Georgia, I stayed with a friend for about 6 months, and then I went into school. So, I started at the Art Institute of Atlanta. I just put some blinders on. I just knew that I couldn't go back. So, I kept moving forward. It was a beautiful journey. It still is a beautiful journey.
Yes, yes. But as you said, not always easy. It's got to be hard to just pick up and move away from everything that you know, like everyone that you love, believing that life could be better for you all.
Yeah.
So, you navigated that divorce and you chose to prioritize your well being and that of your son. That was a significant decision. What lessons did you learn about self worth and personal boundaries during that time?
Well, I realized that after a while, after trying to make it work, after prayer, after asking questions, I just finally realized that I had to put me first, because if I didn't, Poche would suffer. I
Mm.
stayed longer because I wanted him, of course, to be with his father. I wanted to have the family. But then when I realized that that wasn't an option, it wasn't going to work, then I said, I knew I deserved better. And then I knew he deserved better. So I made the choice, both choices for the same reason. I made it for Poche. I stayed because of Poche, and then I moved on because of Poche, because I knew if I wasn't healthy and whole, and he wouldn't be. And with his challenges, I knew that I had to give him every opportunity to have the best life that he could live. So it was not easy. It wasn't easy leaving my family. It wasn't easy leaving my husband. I still loved him, but I knew that the way things were going, I had to love myself first in order to continue to love my son and make a healthy life for him.
I think something that a lot of people don't get, particularly women, the need to focus on making sure that we're healthy and that we are whole and that we are in a good place to care for our children. And I think it's unfortunate that in general in our society, there isn't much more time spent talking about the need to care for self. And that's everything, the mental, the physical, the spiritual, and ensuring that you are in the best place that you're in. So it's wonderful because I have watched you on that journey, and particularly that journey of health and wellness. Living abroad in South Korea seemed like a transformative period for you. What cultural shifts or new perspectives did you gain that profoundly changed your outlook on life?
I want to say South Korea was one of the best experiences, one of the best decisions, one of the most, I won't even call it scary because I don't feel like I was scared. I feel like I was ready for that adventure. At that point, I had turned 42, but I had always, I want to say probably 10 years prior, 15 years prior, I always wanted to live abroad. I wanted to be able to teach. I wanted to be able to travel, just live my best life in that way. And I couldn't figure out how. And I realized that it was just wasn't the right time. Because when it was the right time, it was like the golden brick road. Like God just shined his light on it. It came with some misfortune, which I thought was setback, but what it was a setup.
Mm.
Okay. So I thought, oh no, I had lost a job. Well, I stopped working with the Boys and Girls Club intentionally. My son had graduated high school. So I went on to work with another organization. That didn't work out. And so I'm like, okay, Lord, where am I going? At that point, I wasn't receiving it. I didn't have any income, which was something that happened for the first time in my adult life. I couldn't figure out how to make a living. And
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, Lord, are you serious right now? I'm 40 years old. I've been working and serving people, raised my child. He's graduating. And I'm like, and I can't find a job. And I was open to finding any kind of job. I wasn't even being picky at that moment, but nothing was happening. So I felt like God had pulled the cover from up under me. And I actually had to go and ask for help, which was another thing that was really hard for me to do because I've always kind of prided myself on taking care of myself, taking care of my son, not really asking for help, which is not always a great thing. But as Black women, sometimes we're backed into that corner because it's like, I don't feel like I can go to anyone. I don't feel like I should go to anyone because I'm an adult, because I have a child. I should be able to take care of these things on my own. And with that, I had to move out of my home. So my dear friend, she and her husband allowed my son and I to come and live with her and live with them. And I was in a place of reinvention. I was in a place of what I felt like destitute. I just didn't know what to do, but I knew something was going to happen. So with my faith, I just surrendered. And then it looked like from the outside, I would think that it looked like from the outside, people, I wasn't really doing much. What is she doing? Because I was not working, I was home. And then even within that came some illness. I didn't know what was going on. I just assumed, no, I'm just not feeling well, like we do again as Black women. We don't listen to our bodies always. We just figure we could, rest a little bit, or, it's not that important. As much as I was trying, my body was fighting against me. I got to the point where I couldn't get out of the bed. All I wanted was wheat bread and some water. And my friend and my son was like, no, this is not you. I've always been a very active individual, whatever. And I'm just like, I'm okay, okay. But with their prompting, we went to the hospital, and it turned out it was serious. I had a blood clot, and there were things going on that could have killed me, to be frank. So with that going on, dealing with the health issues, trying to find work, feeling defeated, but still knowing that God had a plan. And within that, the way I describe it, I ended up having a sense of peace because I was praying and I was waiting, but I was still trying to do something about it, because in the Bible it says faith without works is dead. So I figured I can't just sit here and wait. I'm trying to help God do his job. And he eventually told me, sit down. I told you. And that's probably why he took my job. My health was a little bit off, because if I was healthy, if I had work, I wouldn't have followed his plan. I would have followed my plan. I would have worked. I would have talked my way out of it. I would have, but it allowed me time also to study for the test that I had to take and go to the classes and get the information. My very little bit. I remember I got my income taxes and I said, I'm going to invest this. I could have said, oh no, I need to use it because I need to live. I said, I need to invest in this so I can move forward, because I knew my life had changed. I knew it had shifted. I didn't have to take care of my son like I did. He was small. He was going to college. He was moving on with his life. He's going to go move in and have roommates. And then I'm like, now what do I do with myself in my 40s? Right. So with that, I put my head down and I did what I felt I needed to do. And that was one thing, because a lot of times was good things happen to us, was bad things happen to us. We want to tell it all. I didn't have words to tell, but I had a peace in my soul that things were going to be all right. So once I got to the thing of moving to South Korea, I had no fear. I had no concerns. I just wanted to go. So I sold my furniture. I put all of the things that I loved into storage. I tried to prepare my son as best I could that I was leaving, because he's like, you've been saying this all my life, but you're actually going to do it? Really? And I had people saying, are you sure you're going to be safe? I didn't listen to any of it. It was time for me to walk in more purpose, because I asked him and he gave it to me. So that's what we do. Sometimes we ask, but we don't really believe. But I asked him and he said, okay, So moving to South Korea, I was just so open to it. I had traveled already a lot. So I wasn't new to travel, but moving to South Korea, living in their culture, where I'm the only person like me that I see. There were other Black women and Black people there, and other cultures and stuff there. But in the town I lived in, it was me. It was just me. In my school, it was just me, as a sensei name. So I went in with an open mind and understanding I'm going to be in someone else's culture. So I had the best experience that I could ever have, because I was open to it. And I think when you're open to things, you can have a beautiful, beautiful experience.
Mm,
Yeah.
yes. You said a lot, so I want to peel back a few things, particularly this we push through so much as Black women, because if Shay hadn't have been feeling it, you jump right on that. When it's us though that are out of sorts in our bodies, or maybe we have pain and those types of things, we feel like we have to continue to push. I think in that pushing through does have impacts on us mentally, physical, emotional impacts, because we're not in tune with our bodies. You also talked about something that is very hard for many of us, which is to ask for help, because we have this idea in our mind that we are of a certain age and what it means to be adulting and responsible, and that somehow asking for help is almost as if a sign of weakness, or somehow you didn't do what you were supposed to do. And I do think that we do have to figure out how to normalize just being able to say, hey, I need some help, because all of us, and then particularly Black women, we're dying out here because we won't ask for help. And so I think some of those, and I remember watching you at that time and can attest to what just personal struggle that you were feeling trying to find your way. And I remember when you were considering taking the class and you were talking about taking the class. of course, I was like, "Just go for it," right? I was a huge supporter. You're going to do what? I always thought it was fantastic to be able to step into your dreams. I think you found yourself in a spot that a lot of women do after you've raised the kids, after, and you're sitting there like, okay, now what? Because maybe everything you've been doing up to that point wasn't necessarily fulfilling, or you figure out that, man, I've been so busy helping to raise kids and take care of family and build a career and all these other things that I'm not really in touch with me and what I want to do. And so I think that's beautiful that you could describe all of these things that you were going through. And then the biggest thing is taking a chance on yourself. Because when you spent that money, you had a belief. You didn't know, but you believed, and you're like, "Oh, I'm going." And it was exciting to see you step into that moment of living your dreams in that way, because so many of us never have the opportunity to have that experience. And so, being the only, I'm curious, can you describe for the audience what that was like being in that culture and really just being the only? Because I know there were some wonderment things the kids had. Please tell them so they could really understand.
Yeah, well, going into that where I was the only and I was different. I was uniquely different. So for me, it was the curiosity. They were very curious. And I knew that going in that they would be curious because I actually had grown my locks out for 14 years. And I made the decision to cut my locks off for a new beginning before I went. And partially it was like, yeah, I don't want to answer a lot of questions about my hair. So even being there, they were curious about my hair. I was taller than the average woman, almost average man in
Yeah.
South Korea. So my height was always a question. But I think because I came in with respect looking at them, for me, ultimately, once they figured out that I was the sensei or I was the teacher, it was just really all love. The respect that the children have for the teachers is a wonderment because they would speak. If they saw me 100 times that day, they spoke every time. And that was something that I had to get used to because here in America, they may say hey once, but if they see you 4 or 5 more times, it's like, yeah, I've already spoken. So, just getting used to the respect and being able to figure out how they lived. So it was very holistic, which I was already interested in and tried to live my life in that way. So for me, going in there, I said, I'm going to be, if I could say, the young person that I've always wanted to be. Because I've always done different things or whatever, and things you want to do, but life is so busy, or it is not, you can't do it because it doesn't equate to how you're living. Right. So I
Mhm.
got over there and I'm like, I'm going to get a bike. I got a bike. So I rode a bike everywhere. I said, I'm going to, I played volleyball. I went to church. So I had a whole life like I had over here. I was very active in America, but I was able to go and just integrate in. And I think that was really just because I respected their culture. And so
Mhm.
by me showing that respect, and I believe having that open heart, they received me with open hands. They had questions, I answered questions. They wanted to see how we interacted. I was just open to the whole experience. And I had so many wonderful experiences with meeting people. I remember we had what you would call a Thanksgiving expat Thanksgiving. So that's people from all over. So that's the other teachers that came that were from different places and even more from America. But I invited a couple of my Korean teachers, and they sat back. It was two gentlemen, and they stopped, they stayed, and they interacted and they ate and whatever. And then at the end, and I was like, how is it going or whatever? And he said to me, you all are just like us. So
Mm,
it was a wonderful experience for me to be able to show them, to take away the stereotype, right?
yes,
Of what
absolutely.
maybe they only saw on TV, or what people told them, or how people told them we were. He was just so enamored. He was like, you all are just like us. You just want to eat, you want to love each other, you just want to have fun, you want to talk. And I was like, yeah. And I was interested. And I asked him, I said, well, how did you think we were? Or what did you think? I don't think he could really explain it to me, but I could see that he was like, wow. He said it, and I saw that. He was like, oh, you all are, yeah, we're human. We are,
Mhm.
you know. So I had a great experience. I don't know about other people, but I had such a great experience. And like I said, I really believe just because I was open to it all.
I love that. So you went in with an openness. And the other thing that you said was incredibly powerful. You're just like us. It is not until we are able to really spend time together, like real time, human connection, that we figure out we're all the same. You're just like us. I don't care. The language might be different, the hair may be different, and all of that, but we are all the same people. And that is how we begin to outlive the stereotypes. I am curious because, of course, you're an educator, you've held many facets in education. What are there takeaways, or what takeaways did you get from that Korean experience that you've been able to bring back into what you do now?
Some of the takeaways I believe is that you have to, in the field that I'm in, that really that all children are the same, even across, like you said, with the different language, but the children are the same. Even middle school, we all say middle school is because children are trying to figure themselves out. It's the same way. So you bring back that it is all about the love of learning, the love of teaching them, the love of making sure that they feel secure. Because we had a language barrier, but the love was there. Because when I left, the one of the young ladies said, "Teacher, I assume you were trying to teach us more than English." So it was just to show them compassion, to show them that there's other things in life, and to teach them about loving other people than themselves. So bringing away from me coming home, I realized too that life can be simpler than what we make it. It doesn't
Mm,
have to be so stressful. It doesn't
mhm,
have to be so, we can integrate taking care of ourselves into our everyday lives. They were very active people. So just and and also remember to take care of yourself, because that was one of the things that when I was in America, I was taking care of myself, but not as much as when I got over there. It was because it was a lifestyle. It really was a lifestyle. So bringing home a lifestyle of taking care of yourself. So when I go to the Korean bathhouse and get my body scrubbed and my body, massaged, and you get things moving, that's not a luxury. It's a need. It's something that we need to do. We need to take care of ourselves. We need to love on ourselves. So don't just do it, because you think, oh, this is a luxury. It's like something that you integrate into your everyday life because it helps you to live a longer, healthier, more fulfilled life.
absolutely. That is good. So, given your journey, and of course, having to be a caregiver while advancing your career, what advice would you give to leaders who are also caregivers?
Yes, it is definitely a mindset. And for me, I don't know for anyone else, but for me, it was definitely my faith and my believing in my God, in God, right? Because there were times where I was just looking to the left. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? So for me, it was a having a never giving up attitude. It's going to be hard if you're doing well, or it's going to be hard if you're not doing well. So choose which way you'll go, right? So it was a matter of never giving up. It was a matter of, I know I can do it. It was a matter of, Lord, help me. It was a matter of, it's going to be all right. That was always my mentality. It's going to be all right. Even when it's raining, the sun is going to come out. It's going to be all right. And I think that's what got me through so many things. Just the belief that it was going to be all right, that we all go through challenges. God said, He didn't say there wouldn't be challenges. He said He would help you through them. He didn't say the weapon wouldn't form. He said it wouldn't prosper. So it was always a matter of, you've got to live life. You can't turn back. You can't stay stuck. You can't, you have to stay present. I was very present in the moment of what was going on. So the time that I was raising my son, I was raising him, I was loving him, I was making sure that he was flourishing. But then I also was developing myself. I knew I couldn't give everything to him and not develop myself, because then at 40, I would have been looking like, oh no, what am I doing? So my mindset was, when I had him, it's like, I'm still going to be the best person I can be because I'm his example. So I didn't want to be the one say, oh, you need to go to school, you need to go to college, you need to do this, but I hadn't done it. So my goal was to be an example. And even in the workplace as a leader, I walk the talk. So I don't tell you to do something that I'm not doing. I don't say, don't yell at people, but I'm yelling at you. So it's called interactive modeling. So I believe in interactive modeling and me doing, and then we do those things that, like, if you go home, you might be telling children not to do something and you might be doing it at home. So it was my conscience too. I always tried to make sure that I was living the words or living the way that I was expecting and delivering and giving to the kids. So the same way in the workplace, I show up like I want them to show up. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Definitely living your values, right? What's important to you and what you value is how you act and you engage with folks. I think you have much to teach us on this. 2 points in your life. You return to school to pursue your passion for photography at 29, and then at 42, you take this jump and you leave the country. I want to know, what advice do you have for those who feel it's too late to chase their dreams?
Of course, I know this may seem cliche, but it is never too late. It is never too late. There is no dream too big, right? So I have a sister. I have four sisters, but my one older sister used to always ask me. She said, you don't make a lot. You never really made a whole lot of money. You've always, worked or whatever. She said, so how do you do the things you do? How do you travel? And how do you, how are you living out these dreams? You say it, and then next moment you're living it, you're doing it. I said, because that's exactly what it is. God said, you have not because you ask not. So I
Yes.
would ask the Lord if He gave me, the okay to do it. Then I did my part and I followed through and I did it. So if I had to save for a year, if I paid for a trip over a year, so I would say that anything you desire and it matches up with God's will for you, it can be done. Age is not a thing. So I started out, I went to school right out of high school for the first 3 years. And then, Poche came along and I made a decision to stop. But the thing is, there is no map, there is no road, there is no book to how your life should go. So my life started one way and then, life happens. But the thing is, you never give up. So if you're 60 and you decide that, oh, I feel like I need to go back to school, whatever. So I would say never limit yourself. There are no limits. Anything you decide to do, because like I said, I went into school for photography. Well, so when I started at 19 years old going to school, I was in the mindset of I was going to be a social worker, I was going to be a nurse, something like that. I quickly found out that I probably couldn't be a nurse because handling the blood and all of that. And then being a social worker, I'm like, okay, all the kids are going to be at my house, and that's not going to work because I'm like, hey, what's going on here? Let's go. We're going, So with that, I started out like that because I've always come from service. So my heart has always been to help. So photography is also something that has always been a part of me. They be like, put the camera away. I always took pictures. It was something I just always loved to do. So when I got, after having Poche and raising him and working and doing different things and being married and all of that, when it was time for me to go back to school, because I always knew I needed to finish, I said, what can I do where I can actually make a career out of it, but I love? So I had lived enough life to say, I'm not just going to school to go to school. I actually can do something that I love to do and that I want to do. So that's how my career in photography started. I went, and that allowed me to finish school because I was interested in it. So the math and all of the other stuff that came along with it, I was able to push through because I was going to school for something that I was so passionate about. And then there was another life course. So then going to school, and then I said, okay, well, I need to work. So I'm doing some work study, and it ended up being with the Boys and Girls Club. I started out at the Y, then I went to the Boys and Girls Club. So then another layer that got added to me was the teacher layer. And then once I got into the teaching, I just realized that, oh my gosh, this is where I need to be. This is my purpose. This is where God, because I'm a number two. So I've always had the teaching gene, my sisters, the younger ones, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, being raised up in the church and all of the other things, 4-H, Girl Scouts. So I had the innate teaching gene. And then I think it was cultivated by all of the other things that I was a part of, being in sports and everything. So when I started to work with the young people and I saw from the beginning how they started and then what it looked like after I was with them for a while, I just was like, okay, this is where I need to be. So I started to integrate the both. I've tried to get away from teaching many, many, many times. Because it's a lot. It really is a lot. Teachers and educators being in the Boys and Girls Club, the after school, the youth development, you get so full because you're dealing with the children, you're dealing with parents, you're dealing with a whole lot of other things. So it gets to be a lot, but I realize now that in everything that I do, teaching is a part of it and it's my purpose. So I've accepted it and I love it. And I wouldn't do anything else but continue to be of service in our community.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Not all of us can say that we are doing the work, or at least the work that pays our bills every day, that speaks to our souls. That's wonderful. Now, South Korea brought a lot of things to you. One of them was meeting your husband, Obi.
Yeah.
So, how did this relationship change your perspective on love and partnership?
So meeting Mr. Obi, February of 2016, was very unexpected. We used to go to Seoul. I lived outside of Seoul in a town called Namwon, but we would go to Seoul because Seoul is where it's at. It's the soul. Like we could get the food that we loved. We could find clothes that actually fit for myself because the shoe stopped at a size 8.5. I'm a women's 10. So we could go, and find it. It said big stuff. So, finding things that we wanted, we needed. That's where all the other ethnicities were. There was this club we go to where we could dance and had Afro beats. So it was just a way where we could go and just have fun. It was a live city. It was alive. So on this particular day, Mr. Obi is Nigerian. So for us to meet an American woman in South Korea with a Nigerian man in South Korea and our paths crossed, he just came up one day. He said, hello, it's cold. We said hi. So it was just like, hey, because there were other gentlemen, of course, that approached us or whatever. So it wasn't a big deal. And, at my age of 43, 44, 45 years old, it's like, okay, hey, but it wasn't, I won't say it was love at first sight. It was just like, hey, we met again. And then later, so after later on, we went out, we were dancing. I'm a dancer. I love to dance. I'll dance to anything, anywhere, anytime. Let's get it. So it just happened to be music that I love, Afro beats, reggae music or whatever. They were there. So we had an opportunity. We just danced. We just had a good time and, hung out or whatever. The night leaving, he was just kind of looking like, you're just leaving. I was like, yeah. And I remember putting my head back and tapping my forehead, and he kissed me on my forehead, and we walked off, me and my girlfriend laughing. And he was just like, what happened? So the next day we had exchanged numbers, obviously, and I wasn't looking for anything because prior to that I had been in a 10-year relationship that had tore my little heart apart, right? So I'm just like, I'm getting ready to go live my best life. I'm traveling. I wasn't, I could be me. I could think about me. It wasn't that wasn't thinking about my son anymore, but I actually could focus on me. So I was just there, and I was just living my life and enjoying it, And so when Obi came along, I was healed from my past trauma.
Yeah.
I had moved on and I was just free, just loving life. So when Obi came, I can honestly say I was open. I was happy with my life. I was full of love because I've learned in the past, even from my first relationship and the divorce and stuff, I was never hateful. I was never, I just let it go after working through it and dealing with the pain and the disappointment and all. I just was like, it's okay. I still loved him. I'm just not with him anymore. So I could say that my heart was open and I was just okay. So when Obi and I began to date, I had to put a disclaimer. I am not passing my cookies around South Korea, sir. So he's like, no, no, he's like, no, I'm looking for my wife. And that struck me like, okay, you're looking for your wife. But then the plot twist. I am 9 years older than Obi. So of course, I had all of these questions like, why me? There's all these young ladies here. You've got military girls, you've got Korean girls, you got black, you have all of it younger. Because my son at this point is 20 something, right? So I've raised a child and I had never even considered having another child. But then it was Obi, you don't have any children, you're 9 years younger. So I had nothing to lose. So I put out on the table, I asked all kinds of questions. Why this, why that? And he told me, and he said to me, God said, you're my wife. And I was like, are you sure? Because we've got some things going on here. But he insisted. He dated me. He pursued me. He courted me. Which was something that was different from before. I was able to be in my feminine, and I
Mm.
was so elated. And then as I started looking at it, I'm like, you kind of cute. You know what I mean? But I was like, okay, yeah, all right. You know what I mean? He started out as a little snack. Now that we've been married for 8 years, he's more of a dinner and some little takeaway, but he started out as a snack. I was like, okay. So I was just open to it and it was just nice. It was easy. It was fresh. I just opened my heart to it after he proved it to me. It wasn't just like, oh, I'll take it. We went through the 100 questions. We went through the meeting some family because he actually had an aunt and an uncle and a little cousin there. So that for me was a good thing too, to be able to meet someone that knew him and be with them. Because if you don't know Nigerian women, they don't just say, oh, yeah, that's your girl. No, that's not an option. So when you're bringing a woman around, is someone that you are serious about moving towards marriage. They don't do the whole girlfriend engaged type deal. It's like, oh, this is your person. Okay, let's move. So we had to work through all of our stuff. So being there, we decided we were dating for marriage. So we dated. He asked me to marry him on another cold day. We came out and he's like, let's go look at rings. And I was like, well, what kind of rings? And he's like, marriage rings. And I'm like, wait a minute, wait. So we're 6 months in. Right. And then, so I was like, in my mind, I'm like, hold on, we're moving a little fast. I know we said we were working towards marriage, but we need a little bit more time, I felt like. So when we went into the ring, actually, my ring was like, hello. As soon as I walked in, I was like, no. And my face kind of lit up. He saw me light up. The Korean lady is like, oh, that's the one, huh? And I'm like, ma'am, I'm trying to like slow this down. And she was like, yeah, that's your ring. So within that, I said to him, I said, Obi, let's just put it in layaway. Once again, the difference in our cultures, he's like, what's a layaway? Because Nigeria, anything they do, they pay for it with cash. That's not even credit, it's just cash. And I said, well, it's a process where you put it in there, you can pay for it over time. And then, so I explained to him, I said, we'll get your ring, you get your ring, and you just pay for things over time. And then we can continue to get to know each other and make sure that this is what we want to do. Right.
Mhm.
So I bought myself about 3 more months with the layaway. So in that ninth month, we actually went to church together and stuff. And so it was on a Sunday. We had gone to church with the family and him, and he got dropped off in what we call 𝐓𝐤𝐦𝐻𝐬. And I was like, I'm sleepy. I need my Sunday nap. If anybody goes to church, your Sunday nap, I'm good for that. Sunday, some lunch and a Sunday nap. So I went on back with the family or whatever. So unbeknownst to me, he was going to pick up the ring from Layaway. So he came back, and I'm thinking it's just a normal day. We're talking about stuff. We always have deep talks or whatever. And at this point, he was like, would you marry me if I asked you to? And I said, at this point, I said I would marry you because we did a lot of deep work. We were very open and the family and everything. And so I had decided in my heart that I was ready after being divorced for what, 18 years, being in a relationship with someone else for all of that time. I felt in my heart he was the person. I had definitely prayed about it. God, this is your person. And I was asking God too, you sure? Like I asked, oh, and so when I got the confirmation, and so he was like, no, would you marry me? And I was like, oh, that's happening now. And I'm like, yes. And I'm crying. And I've recently said to him that he needed to re-engage me because it was so random. He was sitting in the chair with his hand. It was no big old proposal. So here recently, I've said to him, I need you. So he was down on his knee and he re-proposed to me. Right.
Oh,
Yeah, so it was really a lovely story. Like I said, we matched, which was crazy. We're so different because I'm definitely the extrovert in this relationship, and he's the introvert. So what it did was it helped to bring him out of his square, and then me, it helped to pull me in because we would be watching soccer and I'm like, okay, I'm going to watch soccer. It has been a love story, not without its challenges with immigration, not
mhm.
without the challenges with us weeding stuff out, not without its challenges of us being separated for a couple of years. But I had the blessing of being able to go to Nigeria 5 or 6 times, right? Meeting his mommy who lives in the village still and his family, and just having that experience of being in the motherland, right? So for me, it has been a love story that I will forever, forever cherish. And I often tell him, this is it for me. So let's do this right, Obi. So
Yeah.
he is here in America with me now. He has been here for 3 years. We have merged our lives. We have gotten over some of our cultural barriers, and we just love each other. We love each other. We give each other space. We spend time with each other. And he has been a blessing because we know some stories where things could not turn out so great. But he has been a blessing in addition to my life. And I feel like I've been a blessing in addition to his life. So, Korea, thank you.
That's why I say we can't talk about Korea without talking about that.
You're a
You said
beautiful love.
something at the beginning of describing your love story, and you said you were living in your feminine. What
Yes.
does that mean exactly?
Well, what it means is when you are a young woman and you start a family and you have a child, sometimes I feel like with us Black women, we have to carry a lot of the responsibility if you don't have a partner who is contributing in a way where you can relax. So I feel like a lot of us become very masculine because we have to take care of things that we shouldn't be taking care of. In my mind, because God created Adam as the protector, the provider, or whatever. But when you don't have those things, you tend to get tough because it's like, I have nobody to fall on. I don't have a safe place. So I have to be strong all of the time. And
Yeah.
me, even with my son, having to raise him per se on my own the majority of the time, I didn't have any room to be weak or to breathe or I had to be on it for several reasons. He had to eat, and because of the illness I had to be mindful. Then I had to make sure he was taken care of and that we were taken care of. So I just didn't really have a soft place to land in that time of my life. So I had to be strong. I had to be tough. I had to push through. I had to keep it moving. I had to put a roof over our head. I just had to be everything to
Yeah.
where when you start a family, it should be two people carrying that. But when you have to carry it yourself, you tend to lean more towards your masculine because you really out of no options, no choice, right? So when I say being in my feminine, he just allowed me to just breathe. He just
Mm.
allowed me to be what I call a girl, right? And trust me, I played on it all the time. Can you open the door? So when he wasn't there, I could carry a case of 24 water on my shoulder from up the road a mile down. But when he's around, it's so heavy. Can you open my water, please? So, just to be a girl, just to be able to breathe because I know he would take care of me. and he would
Yes.
take care of things. He would take care of, I didn't have to carry the whole weight of it. Not that I don't carry anything, but I don't have to carry the whole of it. So it just allows me just to, like I said, be softer, be more in my nurturing space without having to then, I say, switch back and
Mhm.
forth. I can just stay in the essence of what God created us to be, in our feminine, in our softness.
Mm, got
Yeah.
it. Okay. I think that's important thing. You hitting on so many things, and you're right. So many of us are, alone or hard charging or have to make everything happen, and and sometimes it pushes out some of that feminine energy, if you will, because we're so focused. So that is wonderful. I do want to, before we wrap up, talk just a little bit about, you have had a various just diverse career path. You postal worker and art gallery director, executive director, you know, international work. But now you have something new to add to your resume, and it is your own business. Can you tell us about starting your doula business and how your life's experiences and leadership are shaping how you approach building this business?
Yeah, so once again, life built around service. So being a young mother, you're experiencing things sometimes, as a young mother for the first time, but then you have mothers who have had multiple children and they need help, or you have someone that just doesn't have anyone. Something being in my mind for a long time. So I sat on that, the doula, and then I learned about more of what it was about. And so a doula is a birth worker. So you have a midwife who would be equivalent to a nurse, a doctor who they do medical procedures and they helping the baby be born either in the hospital or outside the hospital. So what a doula is a doula is we're a support. So we support you mentally, physically. Typically, a doula comes into your life around the seventh month, and we work with you about learning how to breathe and how to carry baby, how to relieve stressors and pains. I work with teas and different things to help stimulate milk, to help stimulate an easier birth. So, and really just there to support both the mother and the father if there's a partner, right? Or if you have other kids, to help them to prepare for a new baby coming, but is mainly in support of the mother to make sure that she's comfortable, teaching her partner how to help her get comfortable when you get closer to birth. And then I'm also there at the birth. So once again, the gift of watching life come in and to be a part of that and to feed love and light and peace into a mother, because the way that you are when you're carrying a baby is how the baby's receiving all of that. So the goal is to make sure that mommy is nesting and having the most peaceful way for baby to enter into this world so they can have a wonderful start, right? I love being connected. I love people. I can honestly say that. I love people. I love being connected. I love, and then us Black women, we don't always get the attention and the love. So I'm an advocate because I'm there. And if the mother is alone, I can say, hey, doc, she said she didn't want that medicine. Because a lot of times the reality is that women are dying in childbirth. Black women higher than any other race, any other rate. Black women are dying because they don't get listened to or they don't get the care that they need when they need the care. So as a doula, I can be there and I can advocate. They don't have a partner, or I can help the partner or the person advocate for themselves. So it's not even so much me standing up and being it's to tell them, hey, you can advocate for yourself. You can ask for this. This is something that you need. This is something that you want, to teach them to advocate for themselves. So being a doula is such a personal thing. Not only are you building a bond with the parents, and then when the baby comes, you have a bond. The babies I've helped deliver, the baby I helped deliver, I thought I was a nanny for the first 3 months. I was like, okay, my time is up. She was like, I'm the auntie. I look at me in the family and be like, hey, I said, I know hey, we family now. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it is a very lovely thing. I'm still fresh in it right now, but I'm building it more because you have a full-time job. It's a lot. You have to learn that balance of working your own business and your full-time career. So I currently have a client right now that I'm going to work with. And it takes time once you in after it's still with the self-care too, because after giving all of that for 3 months with helping them and they bring the baby and stuff, then you have to recover. So just being mindful of I'm making sure that I'm making healthy choices, mind, body, soul, and spirit. Right. So doula, teacher, mom, friend, sister, wife, it's all interchangeable. It's all one thing. It's me, but it's many facets of me. And I think we do that as women. We wear so many hats as we've heard before. We give so much of ourselves. And I just want women to remember, Black women in particular, remember to take care of yourself. It's okay to say no. It's okay to enjoy yourself. It's okay to tell the kids, nope, not today. I'm going to do something for myself. It's
Mhm.
okay to rest. It's okay to laugh and be happy and live in positivity. It's okay. And then when you're not okay, it's okay to say, I'm not okay. I hope that me moving into my doula, I think that's also going to help me move more into my softness and my femininity because it's such a, like I said, a personal thing. And you have to be at peace with yourself to bring peace.
Yes. Okay. That fits along with everything. So now you're bringing the babies in, you're raising up the children, you've been working with the adults. For you and throughout your story, and of course, I know this, but you've talked about it. You are a person of deep faith. Your story is filled with examples of divine timing and trust in God's plan. Can you share a moment when you felt this guidance most strongly?
I think I've felt it throughout my life because I've had so many experiences, even before moving out to South Korea. I have moments of when I was just out and God would say, pray with that person. It may be a homeless person and give them this or pray with them. And I'm like, I don't know about that. And he'd say, and I would try to not do it. And he would make me do it. And then I would ask the person, can I pray with you? It's okay. And I remember one gentleman, he said, I haven't been touched by a woman in 20 years. And that just touched my soul because I said, we get high and mighty. You know what I mean? And you don't remember that at any moment that could be you. I feel so connected to people. I felt connected when I was a kid. I have 10 aunts and uncles, and I know each and every one of them because I would go spend time with them, my grandparents, so I was always very loving. My family is not a very touchy-feely type of family. They would just be like, hey, we laugh, whatever. But I was always, I'm touching, I'm holding. We walk, I'm gonna hold your hand. You know what I mean? So I believe God has always been a part of me in that way. I was in Taiwan. We didn't speak the same language, but we're sitting across from each other. And she said to me, do you watch Joel Osteen? And I was like, is she speaking English? Okay, well, hey. But for it to be me and her, for that to happen, and she felt that, that people talk about her because she was a little heavier than the average person. And I told her, hey, me and her had a thing going on. I was like, you are beautiful. You are, what I mean? But to be in a different country where you don't speak the language and you have that connection with somebody on a train full of people. So I've had many, many experiences like that. And I can see on someone, or I can see, and then I'm just like, babies are drawn to me, cats, which I'm so allergic to. And I'm like, it's a million people that want to hug and rub on you. Why are you over here? So I know that I'm connected to the earth. I value the earth. I'm just so thankful when I go to water. It is nothing like it. I feel so connected to that. So I feel like I've always kind of been connected and I've accepted it, even when it's painful sometimes, because people don't always, So just being, and like I said, remembering to abide by the things that I'm expecting from other people. I just brought this up the other day in personal development. Am I mirroring what I'm
Yes.
expecting from you? And that would be kindness and respect and peace, and you know what I mean? So
Mhm.
just really having so many different experiences in that way has made me want to continue to be who I am, stay open. And I know we ask God, sometimes I ask God, I'd be like, use me, and you better be careful when you ask it. Because he will use you. And sometimes it ain't pretty. I'm just gonna try to keep my light shining. And sometimes your light is offensive to people. Your light is offensive. And you're like, why? I'm just, your light can be offensive to people. I just try to stay connected. And I've had so many experiences through staying connected and open.
Okay. So not one particular thing, but really your whole life is really what it comes down to. Well, Chalon Obi, we certainly appreciate you joining the Unstereotyped podcast. I mean, you definitely dropped some pearls of wisdom, and just hopefully listeners will understand that at any time you can choose a different path. And you talked a lot about what kept you going was having deep faith, and you had a mindset where you just refused to accept anything less, or you refused to take no. And I hope people understand that at any time when you can make, it's never too late, right, to be who you are or live a life that you want to live. So thank you for sharing that. But before we go, because you have started your doula services, please share with the folks how they can get a hold of you, and if people are interested in following you on your journey, because you are definitely a person who shines a bright light, is willing to try things and connect with people. And so I'm sure people can enjoy connecting with you. So tell them all the things.
Yes. So if you would like to connect with me, we have my email address on the screen. And also, I can be reached at 470-926-5950. Oh, my beautiful card.
Yes.
And if there are any other doulas out there who have a lot more experience and you're willing to mentor, I would love for you to reach out to me because I am open to learning. I'm new to the paperwork of it all, but not to the connection of it all. If you are a mother who is in her 7th trimester, you would like a doula, I am willing and able to assist you. And I will help you to have the best journey you can into bringing your baby into life and into love.
Will you travel, or do they need to be in the greater Atlanta area?
Because I am still working a full-time job, yes, Atlanta would be the best place for now. But who knows, in the future, I'm doing it full time, then I would be open to traveling. But just for now, yeah, Atlanta probably is where I would have to say that I'm located for now.
Okay, wonderful. Well, I definitely appreciate you sharing your story, and I'm sure that it's going to inspire, encourage, and empower listeners. Thank you for joining me, Shalon.
Thank you. Peace and love.
Yes.